welcome back once again to the Iconist podcast. I am Barry 3D, your host, where everything comics is imaginable, and that's what we talk about. And I'm joined with who? My cousin?
DJ Rod C. What's up, people? Hope you guys are having a great time. Barry C., I'll let you introduce our wonderful guest.
Once again, back again is my comedy brother. If you're watching our other videos, Touch of Grey Matters. You see Touch of Grey. My man, my brother, the man who puts this all together and puts up with all our craziness. Thank you. And we'll get it straight this time. Dave Sokolowski.
Excellent. Yes, finally. 7.5 years to learn 10 letters. It's amazing.
The years of training has paid off. Congratulations.
It has.
You have graduated, Grasshopper.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. Yes, and for fans who don't watch the other show, shame on you. And second of all, on A Touch of Grey Matter, you'll see, and probably in this one when he was on here last time too, I butchered Dave's last name. So yes, I am an idiot. I admit that. The new tongue, I'm still working out the mileage on that. So it's only been 50-ish years. So yeah.
I have some exercises that you can do, but I can't tell you here. Just saying.
I saw that. I thought it going. I'm like,
Stevie Wonder saw that coming, okay? Like, seriously.
Oh, you good? So, as we like to say, share, subscribe, sign up for the show, the whole and put on the notifications. We drop episodes every Tuesdays. A new episode drops every Tuesday coming out. So put on the notifications. Don't miss out on what we are doing. This is a passion project. We love it. And to kick things off, I put Dave and my cousin Rod through some torture on this one. And what I mean by this is they never read this book before, and I've read this book about 4 or 5 times. So we're going to talk about Mark Millar's Nemesis. It's pretty much, Mark had his own vision with it. Mark at the time was working for DC, and he was writing a lot of books, and people saw Mark Millar as the kid writer. In a sense, not he was young, but he was doing a lot of the more kid-friendly titles for younger readers. And he wanted to do something different. He wanted to show his writing chops. So he went and did a total 180, and he did Nemesis. Wow. So not for kids, So Nemesis came out under the Icon comic book. No relation to the Iconist podcast, which is a division of Marvel Comics. Ran for 4 issues. And when he wrote this was a total adult themed, at one point they're kind of saying, well, what happens if Batman went evil? DC said, okay, don't use the Batman, comparison. And they said, fine, but you'll make your own. So before I go any further on that, I know they haven't read it before. They read it for this show, right. Dave and Rod. I read it multiple times. So let's start off with our guest. Dave, just your impression. What did you think when you read this story?
The overall story,
yes,
I thought was very interesting and I thought it was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you said, there's 4 books for this. So
right.
I'll admit, I finished the first book, and my initial thought was, the hell am I doing? What the hell was this? Like, what did I just read? And it took me like had I picked up that book when it first came out, I don't think I would have picked up the second.
Right.
But, because I'm a professional and we were doing the show, I figured, wait, let's read the others. And it was a very good, there were a couple of points and twists that I was kind of like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
There was one where there was at one point in time where I get the whole what if Batman was, but it was almost like, what if the Joker was Batman?
Right.
Like it had that kind of, and like the main character Nemesis isn't altogether there anyways.
No.
But yeah, like I thought overall it was good. It was really well done. I was kind of disappointed at the end though.
Okay. All right. And we'll talk about that because, right, we'll cover that. So, Rod, your first impression reading this book, like, just overall, what was, because I'd like to get people's new reactions. Like for myself, I liked it. I really liked it because at first I said the first issue, I was like, okay. And then I got into the rest of it and I was like, it just got dark.
Well, you know what? Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. You know what? I'm gonna side with Dave on this in the sense that it's a great book. The whole overall story, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's starting to make you think. And because you kind of go to that concept of like saying, okay, this is a mashup of Batman and Joker, and there's certain times you look at it and you can see a Batman type of persona taking forth, and then let me just sit now. I'm gonna what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take some time. I'm gonna start thinking about these riddles that I'm gonna have to give to these guys. I'm thinking riddles. Are you talking like the Riddler? Are you talking like Joker? Because you're trying to be very, very scheming and stuff like that, and then you start seeing a Joker. So what Dave was saying about seeing the two sides of a coin, this is more or less like saying if both sides of the coins on one side.
Right.
This is really just that type of duality. You don't know where is it going. And I will agree with Dave at this point. If you came to me with this book the first time, I would have sat through it. Maybe I might have got the second one. Maybe. But because I'm like, yo, this is, at that time that came out, this was definitely more darker than I would have ever been reading. So I'm like, yeah, this is going down a very dangerous and jagged rabbit hole. Do I want to go in or not? But once you get into it, you start to see some stuff pulling out and realizing, okay, I can see where Mark is going. I can see where Mark Millar is going. And I will say, not even to divulge, we'll get back into that part later. There are some parts in there that made me think you kind of stretched it out really, really thin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's certain things like saying, we'll get to those parts, but the certain aspect that they're going like saying, ooh, you're really fishing for that to actually come through. But then it's like, okay, you got to remember this is a comical world and everything like that. You got to give it some grain of salt and you go with it. But overall, it's a good movie. I mean, my head is thinking movies.
Right. Okay.
It's a good story that it does have the ability to it does pull you in, and you can read it. You can watch, knowing that it's for, you can go for it.
Right, absolutely. So get back. So Nemesis is, he's the only in this world. He's the only supervillain in this world. There's no superheroes. He's just a supervillain. That's how he's played about. So this guy turns around and he starts off over in Asia and going around there committing all these over-the-top crimes. So, the opening panel, just let our guests know, the opening panel really starts with a guy on a chair tied up, and you find out he's like a police officer, a police chief, and they were going back and forth and having some dialogue. He's got some minions around him. And when he's talking to him, he's like, oh, well, I gave you a card, and on the card says the time and place you're pretty much going to die. And sure enough, the guy's going, and he's like, well, just kill me now. He goes, nope, it's not the time yet. We got to wait till 10:30, and then when it pulls back, you see that he's on a train track in Tokyo, I believe it is, and it's like, oh, here's and it's a bullet train coming down, and it just takes him out, and it's graphic, it's dark, it's graphic, and I got to give it, like, the hero himself, he just wears a white costume with a cape. That's it, and then his minions are, typical tactical gear. And he stands back and watches the whole thing play out. And they're like, oh, yeah, that was a good crime. And he's like, oh, no, it's not over yet. Remember, it's got to be a high body count. What? And all of a sudden, it's like, remember when we went over here and we kind of took care of one of the struts or the pillars that hold up the rails for the train? And like, yeah. And then I see the train goes through the tower, come out the tunnel, and it just comes right off the rails. Everyone on that train just gets wiped out. Wow. I mean, that couple of opening panels, I read it and I'm like, okay, this is going to be really dark. And the story's about this guy. Okay, it's not the hero this time. So it reminds me, as I said, yes, they compare it to Batman, Joker. I get that. I was looking at it more like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. Moriarty.
And I will agree with you on that part when he said, especially at that part when he said, like, I'm expecting a high body count. It's not over. So that I paused it and I was thinking, wow, you actually thought this out. So this was not even
random.
Get the guy. Yeah, it's not random.
Well,
the person's not getting over.
Because he was saying that his men are coming to rescue him, and then he blows up that building, which takes at the train tracks and everything else. And then he's like, see, your guys were dumb. They went to the wrong place. Too bad they're 2 miles away, type thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the train's coming. He's like, gentlemen, back against the walls. And I'm like,
yeah,
he was really like
precise
and pristine. You can almost hear him being played with an English accent, like, gentlemen, back against the wall, please.
Yes. Oh, clearly you can tell where I stand on the tracks with this. No pun intended.
Ay, caramba.
So but that's what I like. I like that it was so out of the norm of what I would normally read. Right? I like that it's like, okay, here he is. It's not a Punisher where it's an anti-hero. He's a straight out villain, and the villain wins. To a certain degree, right? Like he's winning in certain scenarios, and then they flash over like, okay, well, we're done over here. I'm now going to take this back stateside. So I'm now going back after being here for, I can't remember how many years he said he was over in Tokyo, Japan, and all over Asia, doing these kind of things. He's known, he's wanted worldwide. Everyone knows about his exploits. And then you flash over to Washington, D.C., and you see the next person he's going to start going after, which is another police officer who was high up in the chain. Well, I'd say a police officer. He was like a chief. Right. And he was going for like a Homeland Security position.
Director of Homeland Security.
Right. Thank you. And so he's going for that. And then you see how he plays out. And how he himself, even though he's the good guy, he's not the wishy-washy good guy. He's got some grit to him. Mm-hmm. He walks into a hostage situation, and then he explains his logic about how he got in and took care of the hostage situation, which I thought was, okay, that kind of makes sense.
It shows that
perfectly.
No, go there. Go there.
No, I'm just saying, like the whole thing made perfect sense when he explained it. If they're crackheads, they're not paying it. Apparently, the dog wanted to join in. What? I have nothing for you. Fuck off.
Poor Fluffy.
Okay, I'll be back.
I'll be back.
No, she literally just laid down beside me.
She loves your company, man.
He'll give me something later. I'll let him finish work.
Sorry, dude. So you're going on. Well, she just shows up. Your pup just shows up, and she just likes you, Dave. She's just happy you're there.
So, yeah, no, I mean, like his explanation of crackheads very rarely count their hostages.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that makes total sense. They're not going to sit there and go, there's 15 of you, now there's 16.
Right.
They're going to sit there and go, there's a bunch of you.
Right.
There's still a bunch of you. Good. Okay. So, I mean, like, that line made perfect sense. I mean, like, a lot of the things in the first issue didn't make sense to me, kind of like, And I mean, like even going into like the second, third, and the fourth issues too,
Right.
there were points and times where I was sitting there going, whatever this guy was smoking when he wrote it, I want some.
But that's what I like though. It was just like so over the top. You know, when he walks in there, yeah, crackheads don't count. So I walked through the back door, I put a baseball cap on, I walked in there, and then I pulled out a shotgun.
And just release on him.
Yeah, no negotiation. The crackhead's gonna do what? The only thing he was wrong about was the crackhead would have got up from the first shotgun run and just started running. I've seen Dave Chappelle.
We won't get into that.
Away.
Oh my gosh. No, but seriously, it's what I liked about that particular first scene, introduction of the chief, is that the last thing Nemesis said is that, okay, you know what, we're done with Tokyo. I need a worthy foe, and I'm going to the States because there's a particular guy that I think is a great adversary I need to go against. Then we switch over to that. So now you're going to see, okay, someone in this scene is going to be the adversary that Nemesis is going to go up to. And then when he comes out with his explanation, you're like, okay, it's you. Okay, cool. And then when you go to the next page after that, or the next scene when he comes out and he has his explanation, he's now smooth like butter in the sense that he just comes out, you just finish taking care of the crackhead and just basically saying, you know what, I took care of the situation, we're good. Chief, what are we going to do next? Don't worry about it. We're going to just, you know, can you just check out my appointments and make sure this is taken care of? Listen, I got to go to a dinner, a gala. I'm already 14 minutes behind schedule. I'm like, oh, you're down precise to numbers? I'm like, oh, okay. So you're a little tactical, not only on the job, but off the job. You're very precise. You know, you're structured type of person. So I'm like, all about the schedule. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes and see where this leads. And that's where I was like, okay, let's continue to see what this guy is about.
Great, but I liked how they portrayed him because they, you know, regardless of how it's written, they still showed him as a thinker. You know, he still thinks about what he's doing ahead of time during, you know, and it's not like long drawn out thoughts. It's really on the ball. He's aware of his surroundings, aware who he's with, and who he's working with. So when he said, okay, we have to do this, it's like, oh, well, you know, we got this card for you. Are you sure it's authentic from Nemesis? Oh, yes, it is. He's giving you the card. It's the paper he uses, the font he uses. He's coming for you next. And then it's like, well, you know what? You as a top cop have dropped down, you know, crime rate here in Washington, D.C. You're up for this position. And on top of it, you know, you're Oprah's favorite detective, meaning, you know, Oprah Winfrey they're referring to. So they do make that connection that's why he stands out. And then it's like, okay, well, if he's coming, I have to now make an emergency meeting to handle this. So I need you to send my wife these flowers. Why? Well, she's going to be upset because I'm not going to be there for dinner because I know this meeting's going long. We're going to need 14 Americanos and then one other drink. It's because this person is celebrating Lent.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
Actually, what he said was, send my wife flowers. Oh, why? Well, because she's going to be pissed I'm putting her into protective custody.
Yes.
Right.
Which I don't think flowers are going to cut it.
It's like, here, you got to go.
Yeah.
But I like that it wasn't like 3 panels of thought. It was really, okay,
cut to the chase.
Coming. This is what I got to do.
Chase.
Boom.
Cut to the chase. Cut to the chase. Yeah.
But then what happens next?
Yeah. So what happened next was the Air Force One. So basically, they're trying to, you know, now Air Force One is under attack, or someone is basically trying to overrun it while it's in the air. So let's just take that as a moment. It's not Air Force One on the floor, on the ground, tarmac, you know, engines hot or cold or off. No, it's in flight. They're now worrying about someone trying to break in to get to the president while you're in the air. That takes a lot of kahunas. That takes a lot of forethought. And you've seen certain clips, certain panels, he is now not hunched over, but he's basically seemed like he is standing in a crouch position on the wing of a plane. How are you technically able to do that without falling over? Dave, I know where you're going. That's where my head was going. And I'm like thinking, okay, we're going to say that this guy has some type of magnetic boots and shoes. And I'm like, I'm going to take it. We'll stretch it out. We'll see how this goes. But it goes back to what Barry is saying. This guy is a supervillain. And I've been thinking throughout the whole throughout this whole read is that this guy may be really like a very super genius in the sense that he's thought out of everything. And I'm starting to realize that for you to realize I'm going to be going on, I'm going to have about 100, not even, gosh, at a flight like that, how much are we looking at? We're talking about what, 200, 300 miles per hour or something on the air, and you're able to stand like that? Like your legs is not breaking off? I'm like, I'm confused how you're doing it. I'll just leave it for you to just jump in, Dave. I see you're ready. Go on, Dave. Go on.
Well, I mean, like, I think the average flight, you're usually going about 600 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know numbers. Tell me that. Exactly.
Right.
Okay. And again, if any of you have ever seen me, I am not aerodynamic. I don't know. But the fact that you see panels where the Secret Service are in with the president and they're like, oh my God, somebody's on the plane. Mm-hmm. And they don't mean like on the plane as in like in the aisle. They mean on the plane, like on the outside of the plane. And then you see the next panel and he's shooting the pilots through the window.
Yes.
And I'm like,
listen, if we want to be realistic,
what? I get the whole he's a supervillain thing and everything. And this is where I was kind of sitting there reading the first issue going, the fuck am I reading? Because you look and you see he's got the mask on. He's got the mask that goes, to the nose. He's got the cowl and that. Yeah. He's got the cape and it's flying and that. And he's all pure white and everything else. And I'm like, the lack of oxygen isn't doing anything for you.
This is part of the thing. Look at Tom Cruise when he did Mission Impossible, and he literally did that live when he was strapped to the side, and he was sandwiched. He wasn't up like this. He wasn't standing up. He was, I'm holding on for dear life, and this guy just, no. I'm like, that's why I wanted to see this Friday second episode. I was like, okay, either of these people, there's no one talking about no super hero, like super powered individuals. So I'm like thinking, this guy's got some kind of super serum, something. They got to explain something in the next couple of episodes. That was my draw. That's the reason why, Dave. That's why I went to episode 2. Someone's gonna have to explain that because right now I'm just a little. That part just like I'm being as realistic as possible. But I need someone to give me something. Explanation. We didn't know that in episode 1. That's why I was giving the fish. I'm giving the chance to see what's in episode 2. Give me something.
But I don't recall an explanation in the second.
No.
Or the third, or the fourth.
No. I will definitely say that. They never really explain certain aspects about it, right? And you're left to a lot with your own imagination. So I think either this would have benefited with another issue or 2, make it not a 5 or 6 issue run, and a little bit more explanation on some things. That's for sure. Like when he was on the plane, I'm thinking, okay, he's got suction cup boots, and that's why I automatically went with. We're out there without the air. I mean, look, Tom Cruise went on that thing, and he was being pulled on a plane, and he was face front, and he didn't need an oxygen mask when he was doing his Mission Impossible thing. He just screamed.
Right, but I would. That's what I'll say. The oxygen, I would definitely take in consideration. But you know what? Breathing slowly. I don't know. We'll figure some kind of
right. But he was walking freely on the plane. He shot the pilots. He got in there, But I just like the over the top aspect. I mean, I'm sure if he had to go back and do some of it now, add some more details on it, or we need more details. And we'll
be more realistic. We'll be more realistic on that because
but I liked it wasn't realistic. I liked it was over the top. I would have gone with what you're both saying, a little bit more explanation, but I liked it was over the top. Like I would have liked to see on that aspect a little bit more thought on how he would have tricked the president to get on Air Force One, because I never knew why the president was on Air Force One.
Because that's his plane.
Well,
no, but where was he going or coming from?
Well, you know what? I don't even worry about that. My question would be, how did he even get on the plane? Because we didn't even realize how he got on the plane. Like, all everybody's in crouch position. Like, someone's walking on top of the plane. So from that point on, it's like someone's on. So at least if they had some kind of one panel, like you see him running, or hiding in the wheel well or doing whatever, like Con Air, and these guys are doing something like that.
To be honest, I figured that the president was coming back from Asia. He just hopped the flight.
Right.
Because, I mean, like, seriously, he's wing walking. He's, like, jumping around. He's shooting the pilots. Obviously, he's been there for a long enough time that this isn't bothering him.
There's a good thing. So if that's the case, then realistically, how far it is from there to there? Basically, well, we'll get to the next panel. He crash lands in a particular place, but you realize he's on American soil. So how did you stay up there for so long? I digress.
You don't know. Maybe he wasn't outside for so long. Maybe he snuck
Right,
out
exactly.
he was in the cargo hold, but they never explained that. Right? He just literally pops up, does that, shoots the pilots, takes over, flies the plane, aims for a tunnel. The plane just fits in there.
It just kills me. And when you realize at the end of this how tactical it is, you start to realize certain things were set in motion. I think so. You actually thought this thing out again, like the train. You thought this stuff out from the beginning. It was like you're doing a good chess game, thinking a couple of steps ahead, but you don't realize it until after. That's all I gotta say. He scared me. He scared me.
Yeah, absolutely.
How confused he was.
I think it was totally funny. I like that whole thing, and then he crashed the plane. You know, that's what it comes down to. So he crashes the plane. He's there on American soil. Boom, said, done. Thank you very much. And and then you have the police officer now trying to figure out some of the clues that he's dropping as we're going on. And that's the other situation there. So he drops the clues. And now some of the clues, I'm like, okay, all right. One of them I was like, what? When he was talking about the Pentagon, but that was funny. Once again, the whole situation at the Pentagon. Nemesis gets in there and they're finally having a face-to-face. Him and the other detective are having that face-to-face, and goes in there and he's like, oh, well, you see all the guys drink the coffee, having their drinks. And then all of a sudden, he figures out, oh, the clue is not this place. It's actually the Pentagon. And you see everyone dying at the Pentagon.
Right.
Just totally going down.
Am I in your fucking way?
The puppy's like, she's like, well, I just wanted to be a part of the conversation too.
Barry, please next time just put her on the bill as well. Dave and
give her own
Dave
camera.
And friends. Dave and friends. So she...
but that was the fun part for me. For it was like it all came out, boom, okay, fine. So that it was a little bit fast, but I still liked the whole thing. And then he meets face to face, and he's okay. You're meeting Nemesis, okay? So now it's face to face. Everyone else in the Pentagon has died off because he's poisoned everybody in the building. It's just him and some of his lackeys, his henchmen. And then, the cops start shooting at him. It's like, oh, don't forget plexiglass. It's like it came down out of nowhere to protect him.
So, and I took some research too, because I was like, you know what? This book has to be, I'm like, that's balls the size of Alpha Centauri.
Yes!
To write an attack at the Pentagon.
Yes!
In 2010.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yeah! He's Wile E. Coyote, and the plans work for him. Super genius. My card.
Nice. Touche.
If you're going to be an over-the-top villain, it's all about your ego, whatever it is, you want to meet this guy. That's how he operates, is getting in people's faces and going about that. So when he got there, it was, well, here I am. I've planned for this. By the way, I did slip you and the other guy the antidote. And now, how he slipped them the antidote, don't know yet. But I have theories.
Yes.
And, and then he meets face to face, and he's very comfortable. It's like, oh, you can keep shooting. I'm standing in a spot where the plexiglass would come down. If you're supposed to be a super villain and you're a genius, you would plan for this. You would anticipate this, and you see that this character has this kind of foresight on certain scenarios, as the series kind of progress and goes on. So I like that meeting. I'm still kind of thinking, I know they kind of said Batman and Joker. I'm still thinking, more like Sherlock and M, and how they would kind of get together and be kind of almost like, hey, I am the villain, but I'm so smart that you can't even get me. By the way, I'm going to kill you. Did you see the card? At this date, at this time. All right, I'm going to play with you until then. Catch me if you can.
Well, Batman is supposed to be known as per Ra's al Ghul, being the detective. He's supposed to be at that high intellect as well. You know what I mean? So he is supposed to be, if you want to say, quote unquote, the modern day Sherlock Holmes. So that's where I can see the parody off of that. Looking at how it's like a precog. This is where I'm saying he's thinking well ahead. Now you can go to Minority Report. He's like a precog. He's like, you start thinking like things. Again, they don't mention nothing about people having powers or no one's having powers. He's just being very intellectually smart. And you're realizing that you are thinking this thing down to the letter. Or you've thought it, you've thought so well in the same sense, standing before knowing at this section, the plexiglass should come down. You can't hit me. Come on. Don't worry about it. I got you. But it's very that's where my head is going with him in that regard. I like that. Plus the fact that even if you look at his lair, it's a very nice clean lair. That's the cleanest lair I've ever seen.
Yeah, but the thing, where is it?
Yeah, so like I was saying, the lair is so clean. Like,
pristine.
I've never seen a cleanest lair ever, and it's just like big screen, kind of like sitting behind a big screen kind of TV. Of course, there's a monitor and everything like that. He has his minions and all so forth. But I'm like, you want to ask that question, like you said. Where is it? At this point, I'll let that go. Not be the Bat Cave in the sense of like, I don't need to know exactly where it is at this time. You can get back to me on that. But for right now, I don't need to know that. Dang, that's a clean lair.
I honestly don't think that it was anywhere really. He's probably got them all over the place. From what it seems like, especially with being his first time working in the States, at that point in time, you assume that this is all new because this is his first time in the States and everything else.
Right.
Now you find out later on that
he's forward thinking.
He's forward thinking. So
So he could have had this lair built in time for, his eventual return to the States. So, even though he was overseas, he could have probably got this built, years ahead of time.
Correct.
Oh yeah, because that wasn't just something thrown together.
Oh no.
That wasn't an abandoned warehouse. So.
That's too deep to be an abandoned warehouse. That's a subfloor. That's a subfloor. Like we're going to that's like what 3-4 layers at least. That's a deep basement. That's a party basement. That's government.
Yeah, actually, well, not only that too, but also the cars that he has.
Okay, we're gonna get to all that. So we're gonna go back. So a little bit on this character's history. So as we're going right now within the books, right? And forgive me if I jump back and forth. So I know we've talked about Nemesis. We've talked about the chief. Their meeting. We talked about his lair. But if we step back for half a second and we talk about what Nemesis' origin is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's going back in time.
No. Just I wanted to see how long half a second was actually going to be.
I love Dave.
I wasn't sure if I saw that.
I'm long-winded. So
I know. That's why I figured I could time you with a sundial.
It's true. It is damn true. So we go back to his origin, and the origin he gives us in the comic book. I will say it, and then I'm going to ask it. Do you believe it or not? So the origin he gives is that his parents were, I guess, billionaires. They're really up there. They were running a private hunting club. Officers go looking for his dad. They have some questions about a missing teenager. They go into the room. You see his dad hung himself. You know, he's a young boy. They arrested, you know, and they're all dressed in, like, you know, Elizabethan costumes, you know, the powdered faces, the powdered wigs, and the dresses and all that kind of style, almost like the Hellfire Club. And what they were doing was their hunting club was getting homeless teenagers and putting them out there and hunting them down, which kind of reminded me for half a second of the movie The Game with Ice-T. We had those hunters went and got, you know, vets to hunt them down. Mom gets arrested. Mom gets the electric chair. He blames his, you know, that officer for just destroying his family at a young age. And he went to go and live with his uncle. Now, his uncle was nowhere near in that lifestyle, complete opposite of that. He got bored with it and he left. He took off overseas and he was going around, you know, indulging his life in, you know, his extracurriculars as much as possible. We go through the story, and as the story goes on, at one point they say this is his origin, but at one point he turns around and says, well, no, that's not my origin. That's not my story at all. And he kind of laughs it off. And as my research I was doing, it seems that was really the character. So do you really think that was Nemesis's origin for this person in the costume? Or was he just saying it just to say it, to kind of reel along his adversary?
I love to go as getting prepped up.
I'm gonna go no. I think it was something to dumb everything down for the chief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just it gives him a reason for doing this and destroying his life the way he did.
Right.
And in reality, though, I think he's psychotic enough that he did this because it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, I can have tacos or I can fuck up the chief's life.
Tuesday afternoon. What did I do?
You know. But see, that also plays into a few other things too, because later on, as he's talking about, you know, this, what was the kid's name? Matthew Alexander?
Yes.
Something like that?
Something along those lines, yeah. I'm going to look it up here. Why?
Oh, Matthew Anderson.
Anderson, that's
Mr.
Yeah.
Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. And so later on, he's talking about how, you know, this kid actually like died in a whorehouse in India or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And then, and this is the only thing that I was kind of like, maybe, hold on.
Uh-huh.
I think that is true why the chief was picked.
Right.
Going through, like, he ruined the family and everything else. So the family, the kid, was going to get him back.
Right.
I don't believe that Nemesis was that kid.
Right. Gotcha. That's why I said in the costume.
Right, no, I thought you were leaving it out. But you're giving away certain things to the end, but we'll get to this. Go, Dave.
Well, some of us are young here because I'm just saying, like, it's, and this is also one of the things that I was kind of like about the book with. As quickly as, like you saw the thoughts come out from the chief and he was precise and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
There are points in this book where I was just kind of like, it dragged. I was kind of like, what the fuck is this? Like, there was no rhyme or reason to it type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, and if you haven't read the book, by all means do so. But you'll see what I'm talking about when I say the first bit you're kind of sitting there going, what the fuck?
Right.
And then the next little bit you're kind of sitting there going, ooh, maybe.
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
Possibly. And then the fourth bit you're sitting there going, what the fuck? And it's only kind of after and now discussing it where I'm kind of sitting there going, well, wait a minute.
There you go.
This and him and there and that. So just to put it all out there, the whole story is Nemesis and this cop going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
Cop arrests Nemesis. Nemesis is kind of like, no, I let you catch me. There's a reason for it. They put him in jail. He lets all the prisoners out. He kills 100 guards with his bare hands or gloved hands. Whatever you want to do. Yeah, right. I'm disappointed.
Because it's Wednesday.
I only count 97.
Yeah.
His minions all infiltrated everything already and whatnot, and we're breaking them out, and now he's still going out. And now, when all this is still going on,
right,
he still has the president hidden. And everybody's like, nobody has ever said, hey, where's the president?
Thank you.
Can you tell us that, please? So they escape. I'm guessing he goes back to his lair because there's that one scene, and they didn't quite. And I kind of had to look at it like 3 or 4 different times in different angles.
Right.
Where he's standing there and he's on the phone with the copper.
Yeah.
And he's like, tell us your like 3 darkest secrets or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And it looks like this thing is actually piecing him back together. And I couldn't tell if it was piecing him back together, piecing the suit back together. Is it something with the suit that makes him the way he is? Or is it, so you get the 3 dark, deep secrets out of the cop and everything else.
Yep.
And, and then at this time, too, you realize that the guy's kidnapped his kids. So his wife's doubly pissed at him. Because,
flowers
ain't going to cut it this time, sunshine. And I know this might be a family-friendly podcast, but at this point in time, we're doing anal, and you're the one taking it. So
we'll just clarify everything at this particular moment in time. So now we know.
Love it when you're on Dave.
So, and then all of a sudden, the big scene's coming up where they're going to be fighting, and then, but he says the 3 dark, deep secrets. He says, yeah, your kids are fine. They're outside. Well, they're kind of fine.
What do you mean?
And then you see the headline.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sitting there, and I'm like,
it took you a couple of seconds. Like,
I had to read it a couple of times. Like,
do a double take.
Ding ding
Like,
ding 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 ding.
I read fast. I had to reread that headline like 6 or 7 times to sit there and go, what?
Is that a typo?
Like, if you've seen our other show, you've seen some of the stuff I come up with, and I'm a little bit touched. There is no way I'd come up with something like that. That is a special.
It's a special mind to think that out. It's a special mind to think that out. That's all I'm going to have to leave it at.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll even okay. So Dave is saying good point. There's up and down. Like you get a point of realizing, okay, that's what I'm saying. The first issue had me. Then I'm like, you're kind of weird, but let me just see what the next one is. And you're going up and down, up and down. So to answer, Dave, your section about that part where you saw that machine. So it's their version of Tony Stark when he when he went back to the Stark Towers with Loki, and he just went through his system and started taking off the stuff. So that's all it was. I just went back, because I thought so too, but I realized it's like, oh, that's weird. But then I saw something clock, but now it made me look back, and I know I stopped there as well, and I went back and looked and realized, yeah, it was like an automated type of scenario. So
but, but why would he need the machine to take off the clothing, and why would it put it on?
He's arrogant. He's like Tony. I don't take the stuff with Jarvis. Take it off.
No, I know, but that would have been a perfect time to put in and say, okay, the costume had something to it to give him some kind of advantage.
I understand, but this is where the common sense will come in. We know that where something like that should have been there.
Oh, I'm leaving that one alone.
I'll just cover right out.
Be thankful. See, touch of gray matters.
That'll be my opening line on the next show. Trust me.
Oh wow, deal. Okay, I'm looking forward to that one.
Hilarious.
But right, so I'm seeing like, yeah, you're right. It comes in, does what it has to do. Now going back, I like the fact of why he got captured, because he's like, well, I can't find the kids, so I'm going to get myself captured, give him a false sense of security. He's going to pull his family out of their witness protection program, goes home, and now that I know where your home address is, well, then that makes it easier. Kidnap the kids. Now, they got picked up after school. You think he would still try to monitor them a little bit, but whatever. He got them, and then he goes like, country with the kids. They're fine, but not fine. And we'll say it that way, because you got to read it too.
Step brother.
Right? And I like that at that point he was at least trying to show the moral of the chief by saying, okay, releasing your secrets publicly, because I don't want money, but it's to show you where you stand, and your beliefs of being Catholic and on abortions and what you really tested those. And I think they could have done more to really test the mettle of the chief more than that, right? When I mean it was tested, but it could have been written out more. I wanted a little bit more depth on that, So
yeah, I mean, like it was quickly touched on. Like, why do you think your son didn't come out to you? You just came out to your wife. Right. Oh, is it because you're an asshole? Well, yeah, okay, fine. And why do you think your daughter had an abortion? And because she, and went to school anyways.
Yep.
And the wife turns around, and obviously she's kind of like, well, yeah, you are a dick, and you always choose your career over the family, which is always, like, yeah, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't even remember how the hell it happened. Like, she stormed out.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like, was it like within the next couple of panels, they're face to face again?
Well,
oh, you mean the Nemesis and the officer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what happened was that when she stormed out, there's really more. When he stormed out, the next scene, he's back now with his aide, was his inside man, his undercover guy. That was the Quiet John or Silent Bob.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was talking to his informant, who was basically inside guy, giving him all the inside tips and everything along that line. And that's when they made the decision to say, well, they say, okay, I know where he's going to be. And then getting that info, believing that they can storm his
oh, right.
Yes.
Because then it was, he's impersonating his uncle.
Right. And they went to the uncle's place, and then they see the uncle all like tied up on the bed, who raised him with like pure C4 all around him, and that it's like, get out the house. And they say he runs out the house, and it all explodes because the officer he had an undercover agent somehow infiltrate his gang, his unit.
Yeah.
Right.
See,
Nemesis
now I
unit.
put that whole thing out of there because I thought that would be the dumbest twist ever.
Yeah, because how would you get?
He's impersonating his uncle. Oh, for Christ's sake!
It wasn't even that. It was what got me. It was like, okay, you got an agent, one of your agents, into Nemesis crew. without Nemesis knowing, and then Nemesis like, well, no, I knew the whole time. I paid off your agent, and I paid off other people. Oh, by the way, I've had an agent in your crew.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been giving you false leads. That's how I know what's going on, because I've been giving you false leads. That's perfect.
Well, that's it. So, the uncle thing, I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I see how they're always trying to do like this misdirect.
And that's probably why I got confused, thinking it was like really the next scene that they were, because that was so stupid. I put it out of my mind. Like, I was just like, oh, what's next? He's Mrs. Doubtfire. Like,
I've seen Mission Impossible.
Is it dressed to kill all of a sudden? He's, like, this woman's committing murders. No, it's actually a guy dressed as a woman. Oh,
no! I liked it because I'm thinking Mission Impossible. They had to explain some of it more to me, really sink in. But the whole thing of him impersonating the uncle the first time, and then now the real uncle is there, it's kind of, I wanted, you needed some more things to kind of connect the dots properly to make the story a little bit smoother. But I still like that aspect. Then he gets unconscious. Then he picks him up, and it's like, okay, here we are. And it's like, where are we? What other room has an Oval Office? It's like, you're now with the president at the final end of this arc. So you got the president in the Oval Office, along with Nemesis, the officer. I keep saying the officer. I got to look up his name to get it. And his wife, and the officer. And the wife and the president have on these vests with explosives on it, and he hands over the device saying, well, you got 10 seconds. You either save your wife or you save the president.
If your career is so good for you, you'll let your wife go. If your wife is so good to you, you'll let your career go. And that was it. So the great thing about that, too, is that Nemesis had given each of them a trigger for the other person.
Yes.
And that was the thing. And thinking that at least one of them would have been more or less the wife one is like, forget you, President. You're taking my husband. Bam! I want my family back. But it's the chief of the of the whole country. She had at least some kind of patriotic duty. Blake Morrow, right? So
thank you.
She would have done that, but I mean, she didn't. And of course, the president's not going to do it to one of one of his constituents, his future voters. So.
Well, depends which president we talk about. If we had to talk about in real life.
Well, we'll get to that one later. Dave.
See, but that's also too where like the big reveal came out, going like, well, he's not really this Mr. Anderson guy. He's just rich and bored, and decides that this is something I wanted to do. Right? Which I was kind of like,
okay.
No. Like, that doesn't... I'm rich and I'm bored.
See? So, hold on. So, that line made me think about the movie The Game with Michael Douglas to a certain degree. If you remember the movie. So you have Michael Douglas. He's super rich in that movie. Runs a company. He has a brother. His brother was in rehab, and he doesn't really talk to the family. He's not married, or he's divorced at this point. And his brother says, "You need to play the game." And he goes, "What game?" He goes, "Trust me, it's the best birthday present I can give you. Just call this number, and it'll start." And it's okay. And then
remember that. Yeah.
Remember that. And then Michael calls the number. Next thing you know, he gets caught into like a murder mystery. People are chasing him. He's trying to clear his name. And this whole thing goes out till the very end of the movie. He gets there, the final, trying to say, hey, finally caught the guy who's impersonating me and framed me. And it's like, oh, that was the game. You've lived. It got the blood flowing. It changed your routine. It made you reevaluate your life by looking at people and not taking them for granted anymore. And it was like, oh, this is all a game.
Well, you see, I can't remember that full movie, but I'm sure throughout it all, people, if someone was thought to have been lost their life, it probably was blanks or whatever the case would be.
Yes.
This now, saying that you're rich and bored, but you're actually going into this. Are you now thinking that you're like, oh my goodness, the oh my gosh, from Iron Man 3,
the Mandarin,
who played like saying, "I'm the Mandarin." All these guys are just props, who was
I'm a thespian.
Yeah, it's assessment. And he's thinking like, no one really died. Yo, my friend really died. No, he didn't.
I was Gandhi. I'm allowed to do this.
Right, but
that's exactly it. But I'm thinking in my head, if this is so real, are you really that bored and that rich that you can go through this type of episode and do all these amount of things? Makes me go back thinking to you having the ability to hold yourself on a plane. Like, I may be rich. Thank God when I'm rich, I don't know if I'm going to be crazy enough to think I'm going to try to play this game that I have to force myself to be jumping on planes, trying to elude cops, running, taking the chance of hoping that the plexiglass come down, doesn't break and kill me, all for a game? Yo, I love my life, man. I don't know.
I get you, but now going in context of this comic book, if you go back to the first, the issue where Anderson gives talks about his life when as a kid and what his parents were doing, what were they doing? They were all part of a club, getting runaway teenagers and hunting them. That was so. If they're getting people that have that mentality, so he's got a Rolodex of people that wanted to really push the envelope. He can reach out to a couple of them that would say, "Yeah, I'd pay for this."
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure, like, again, there's got to be, like, some kind of, I mean, it would be great if they did some kind of, even one panel, seeing someone writing out, like, the agreement forms or something, I don't know, because you now realizing you killed so many people, so many property damage and stuff like that, you're either going to get caught or you're going to die. Are you prepared for that at the end of your game? I guess so.
That's just it, because nobody's going to rush to the Oval Office. Well, these two have bombs strapped to them, and he's got the chief of police there, and whatnot, because he fucking gassed them all, and you see all these bodies laying all over the White House, and it's like, so you gassed everybody at the Pentagon, you gassed everybody at the White House,
right? You
took out a train and a building in Japan.
Yep.
Listen, you're racking up numbers that are just, staggering. Like in 2010, I think the only people that racked up numbers like that were claiming it in the name of, Allah.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So it's very interesting that we can understand as a society doing something. As a society club, we will probably think that, hey, that's great. That's above my pay grade. You're going to do that. That's great enjoyment. Whatever floats your boat. But for you, really got to be that. I don't know. I don't think stuck up, but the thing like I can do all this stuff here, kill someone, possibly even kill the president of the United States of the free world, and don't have to really worry about myself being taken into custody. Where do I sign up? Really?
Well, as I said, not so much about taking into custody, but sometimes people have the impression of the rich of they do anything what they want anyways, and they get away with it, right? So I think it was loosely playing on all this, loosely based on the game. Sherlock Holmes. I was seeing like little elements of all this coming in there.
So, and I get all that, and let's get to the big fight scene, because this just. I literally sat there and I was like, because going back to the point that we've made a half dozen times already,
right?
You carefully think out every detail,
right?
You get to wear this suit on a plane, not in a plane, on a plane, in flight.
Yeah, man.
And not have a problem with it. You get to blow shit up. You get to kill thousands.
Nemesis.
And your dumbass isn't fucking bright enough to make the cowl Kevlar?
What? Yeah. No, I
point.
Yeah, but the
what the fuck did I just read?
It's a lot of misdirects, and again, the last misdirect that we know
Misdirects.
At this point, no, I agree. At this point, it's like it makes no sense. It's later on when the next part comes in, I'm like, oh, that's how you clean up everything.
It's still doesn't.
Cars, you know.
Yeah, I got a car that's going to split out. I'm going to come out on a bike, and I'm going to be able to like shoot things and blow shit up and blow up a helicopter. But God forbid I land on my head because I'm fucked.
Even in his lair, he had a plane. He had a fighter jet.
He had a plane.
Yo, man. But right, so at the end, he gets shot in the head, and of course he dies, and he dies with a smile on his face, missing a chunk of his frontal lobe. You know, his kid goes through the wallet and says, "Oh, you're supposed to die at this time at midnight." His dad did die, but they brought him back. You know, he flatlined for a couple of seconds on the table, so it's like, "Oh, it counts. All right, live your life." He goes on. He retires. You know, Mr. You know, Morrow. He retires. Gets back with kind of reconnect with his family. He adopts his.
Him and his wife adopt, two of the triplets or three, all three.
One of them.
No, they adopted all three. They say there's three. They only show two in the panel. They say they're triplets. They adopted all three kids, you know. And then they're at a restaurant on a vacation at some resort, and some guy brings over a bottle of the most expensive champagne, and he goes, "Hey, this is for you. You know, it was bought to you by someone to celebrate." And he's like, "What? Who?" And he goes, and the guy says, "Well, this person asked us to give you this bottle of champagne." Mm-hmm. He goes, "I was told this a couple of years ago to bring it over to this table at this time to you." But it's like, what? Who is this? And then that's where it does that big reveal where you see another panel and you see another guy sitting on a beach with a goatee having a drink. So Nemesis, who you see throughout all the series, is not the main villain. The guy who it explains in the letter is like, I run a company that gives people, you know, lets them live out as a super villain when they want to do it. So pretty much that's what reminded me of the game. And then you see him on the beach. He explains all that. He goes, "Stay out of Los Angeles and everything will be fine." And you see the guy there on the beach. Now that's the question is the guy on the beach really that kid Anderson grown up and just said, "Hey, use my story to do whatever," and is making money that way? Or is he someone completely different? You know?
I believe that the guy at the end is Anderson, because at least tying it back to how Morrow disrupted his life. That's his whole, as he's saying, that's his whole meaning for doing this.
Right. His motivation.
His motivation is that Morrow disrupted and had his father. He didn't kill his father, but revealing certain things of his family's these secret lives, killed his father, bankrupt them, and everything like that. So now he started doing, like you said, he started doing, when he got a certain age of 20s, he started to go off and be like Bruce Wayne in the same regard, go on, but instead of doing good lighting things to encourage himself, Matthew decided to go into the underworld and became that particular person who he is. Having all this amount of money and be able to build this type of networking, I can see where he is making money by that.
Yeah. Once again, and that's what reminded me of the game with Michael Douglas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
of aspect.
And that's where I was kind of like, okay, you know what? Yes, I could see that being the Anderson kid, because, and again, it really comes down to that final scene with the guy in the suit,
right?
Where I have meticulously thought out all this stuff. I have all these gadgets. I have all this stuff. And now I've got a big chunk of my fucking skull missing out because I didn't think to put Kevlar in.
Right, but
like, you know, there's no way you're gonna. So for that, it has to be. You know, yes, I give people this opportunity. I sell it to them. Mm-hmm. I tell them, yes, okay, it's perfectly safe. Of course, they're Kevlar. It's not everything else.
Yeah, thought of everything else. But
Right.
in a sense, you can close that loop in the sense that what if this person decided to like say, you know what, I had enough of this. I don't want to play this game anymore. What a game, Morrow says. Oh, this guy has been feeding me information about you, whatever. You know, let him play it out. You're going to come out of this on top, not knowing that he's going to eventually die. I close the loop. No one knows about my secrets of how I'm having a secret society.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I said it had a lot of interesting parts for me. Clearly, I like the book. I admit I like the book. It had its flaws, but I liked it overall. You know, and then coming down to it, like now getting more to the practical thing. I know when I was reading online and doing some more research on it, this was volume 1. There was supposed to be 2 other volumes, but they never got made. So that's the shame of it, because I thought, you know, if you would have ever inked volume 2, we would have got more about who was on the beach and find out more about his story. And then it probably would have fleshed out and backtracked a little bit. So that's one. I know, as I said, doing more research, I found out that, you know, Mark Millar had his company, and he sold his company, you know, with all these properties over to Warner Brothers at the time. Now, he's got a lot of it back, and now this is why those properties are being made at Netflix. But Warner Brothers, for some odd reason, paid the extension to keep the rights for Nemesis for an extra 5 years. So he's got all the properties back, and this is why he's developing them at Netflix, like Jupiter's Legacy, and continuing some of the other stories he's got there, Kingsman, so forth. But he has them all except for Nemesis. For some reason, Warner Brothers is still holding on to it. Why? Don't know. And I know they were talking because he sold his property over to Fox. Then Warner Brothers bought it from Fox, and then they paid for the extension on Nemesis. And they want to do their version of a film of it, you know, but they're going to change it up completely, where it's still going to be Nemesis, but it's going to be a totally different arc than what we saw in the comic books. Dave's like, oh, good God. So we thank you for holding on to all that. So now let's get down to it. So clearly we know they want to do a movie with it.
right.
That being said, who would you see playing certain roles in this movie? So let me kick it off with you, Dave, as a guest, or, you know, who would you see playing Morrow and Nemesis in costume, and Nemesis out of costume if we went that far, so to speak. And I say out of costume because we all realize or agree that it's 2 different people.
Yeah. See, now here's the thing: if DC or Warner Brothers is going to do this, if they want to make it correct,
Right.
do an animation version of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, you have James Spader as Nemesis and
Okay.
Mark Hamill as Morrow.
Oh, geez, yeah. Okay. I like that. Wow.
Just because Mark Hamill's multi-talented and he'd be able to do a wide assortment, and I think he would do Morrow very well.
Right.
But James Spader has that. He's got that voice, and he's got that psychoticness that he can just, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not like at any point in time Nemesis in the book is like, you know, full on freaking out mad and yelling and screaming and everything else. Very methodical. So if you've seen Age of Ultron, The Avengers, James Spader voiced Ultron.
Yes.
You know he can do that. You know he's got the chops to be that sadistic, evil person.
Mm-hmm.
Live action, as weird as it sounds, and I know I've been kind of like, no, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see him. Nemesis, I think, would probably be best John Cena.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
And
Okay.
for Morrow, I was actually thinking of another really good Morrow, the guy who played Clay Morrow in Sons of Anarchy, Ron Perlman.
Oh, wow. That's a matchup. I'd pay money to see that.
Because I think Cena has the ability to pull off the physical part
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
of Nemesis, and I haven't seen him as the Peacemaker or anything else, but I
Right.
think he might also, he might be able to do the comic book bad guy.
I agree with you on that. I fully agree with you on that because I said Warner Brothers has got behind him, to play Peacemaker. Clearly, he's got that. So we'll get a touch of it. Either I'm not sure if we're going to see what comes out first. If it's Fast 9 where he's kind of playing a villain, or Suicide Squad where he's playing Peacemaker. So that's going to give him more of an indication. For what I saw from him in Fast 9, like just the trailer, I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think he can pull off Nemesis. He can get that voice going, and he's got the jaw lines that he can do the physical aspect of it. And if he can get and portray that darkness, but controlled, methodical, yes. I like those choices, but I really like the James Spader on the animated one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let me go over to you, Rod. Who are you thinking?
Well, yeah, I don't have anything for anime because my head wasn't thinking that. But
no, but
no.
Yeah.
I'm giving Dave the
wow.
hands down. That's done. I'm out. I'm all leaving.
Sorry, guys, I do have to interrupt. Unfortunately, I do have to go because I got to take care of the dogs. I got to walk them and everything.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought we were going to be
Don't worry.
Over already.
But I know the technical difficulties and everything else. But as you can see, she's back. So
No problem. Do what you got to do, brother. Once again,
man.
so we'll continue this, but let's just say this.
Yes,
Dave, thank you for joining us once again.
no problem.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Pleasure. We'll talk again on the next Mark Millar thing, probably Red Sun or something like that. Or, even after the whole Mark Millar Love-In is done, then we'll do something else.
Oh, absolutely. We'll do something else. You can make it a change. We'll give you a change and do something else. But, once again, Dave Sokolowski, you can find him, Ton of Fun Entertainment, Touch of Gray Matters, YouTube. Check it out. Please like, subscribe, share. Put on your notifications. Episodes drop multiple times a week on that, 3 times a week if minimum. So keep an eye out. Go back, watch the old episodes.
Fuck off. Find our page on Facebook and go to the new link for Redbubble, and you can get merchandise with a Touch of Gray, Touch of Gray Comedy, Touch of Gray Matter. You can get Resting Dave Face mug, which is great.
Nice.
It's like Resting Bish Face, just a little bit hairier. All right, sorry, guys.
No problem.
Thank you very much, and I will talk to you guys soon, okay?
Anytime,
Take care.
Dave.
Thanks again, Dave.
Take care, man.
Bye, guys.
Later. Bye.
So hit me with it, Rod. So now it's just me and you.
All
Let's
right,
get back
cool.
to the basics. So
Okay.
who would you go with?
Listen, for Anderson, like I got to look for someone who I had my head between 2 people,
Okay.
but I think that was all our conversation, and just hearing everybody just kind of like warm me towards one. So I was thinking Michael Fassbender. So I was going with him because listen, Dave gave me a point. You got to have that elegance and that style.
Uh-huh.
Now, seeing him as Eric Lyncher as Magneto, seeing him in Assassin's Creed, you know what I mean? So he has that poise that he can actually, have that persona to be able to like have that clout of like
Okay.
not entitlement, but have that ability to say, listen, I'm so sure of myself that I know what I'm doing. I'm such a smart individual in this game.
Right.
Also have the ability to do all the actions and be able to just keep up and doing all the stuff that, the fight scenes and that type of stuff. Definitely like the fight scenes coming from Assassin's Creed. So that's why I wanted to bring that part in there as well. He didn't seem to do no real fighting as Magneto, but in Assassin's Creed, he had, he showed the chops, showed that he has the movement, that he can just keep up, work out a nice little fight routine for him, and he can be able to execute it with ease. He has no problem with doing that. I was now. I'm gonna say who I was thinking of initially for Morrow, but I'm gonna switch it over to who. So I was thinking because Morrow now is, like I said initially, he's very thought provocative and being like a Bruce Wayne, but he's like an AKA, like a Jim Gordon. Right. So at least by the Bruce Wayne type of connection, I was going to give our good boy George Clooney the option to be there to basically relieve and just kind of like give him another hope in the sense that he has completely threw Batman behind him, but I want him to at least have this chance. You have something similar that is not bad. You're on the other side, but you're being as smart and as poised as you should have been in Batman.
Wow.
So I was going with George, having the gray, having, the elder, but again, certain things like having him being that coy type of person, like, again, the opening scenes. He snuck in, he took a cap, put a jacket, snuck in the back, come out, pop, 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 stop the robbery. Yeah, I could see George Clooney, like, just got his head tilting, like, how he sometimes does, and just kind of like, yeah, well, no one's counting people. I'm like, okay, I got stuff to do. Then he turns him back into Bruce Wayne. I just getting myself ready. I'm 14 minutes late for this gala, and whatever the case may be.
Wow.
So, you know what? I think I might even, now that I'm talking through it, I think I will just stay. Oh, I'm going to say my second person. Okay, so I'm back. John Travolta. John Travolta was my other one. So off of having the poise and everything like that, off of Face Off. Was it Broken Arrow? I was thinking too.
Yeah, and then
thinking off of Pulp Fiction, and like he has that poise, and but
there's one he plays an assassin. Swordfish. But there's another one he plays an assassin in, where he shaved his head all bald.
Yes. I know which one you're talking about. That's From Paris with Love.
From Paris with Love. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So
okay.
I can see him definitely because of Swordfish having that. He's again particular and he's just structured and everything like that. Again, he's like a Morrow in that regard.
Man, you guys are killing me.
So I was going with that. So it was a toss up. George, John. George or John. So I was like, ooh. And again, I gotta look in the age bracket as well, and just realizing you're a veteran. You've seasoned. You take some licks, and you put people down. You rail, and you have no problem railing someone up. John has no problem railing people up.
No,
George really, I can see George can rail up somebody. Again.
If you watch the movie called Peacemaker with George Clooney and Nicole Kidman,
my God,
George Clooney, pure action. I wish he did another one of Peacemaker.
Gosh, I forgot about
Peacemaker. Is one of my favorite George Clooney action movies. I forgot about that. Oh yeah, him and Nicole Kidman. George Clooney in there.
Yeah.
Dude is fire.
Those are early classics. Oh my God, I forgot.
So yeah, when you're mentioning that, I was thinking Peacemaker, and I'm like, okay, wow, okay, you and Dave just killed me. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
Well, on that note, we're just gonna end the show.
Well, sorry. I gotta give you my Anderson, my real Anderson. Remember, I was telling you before. I was saying
yes, the guy on the beach.
On the beach. So now this is when the thought provocative type of person.
Okay, you got me. Let's go.
I have to give this up. I have to give this up to my wife. She watches. Ever watched the Prodigal Son?
Yes.
So the father, Walter.
Right. I think I've seen a couple of episodes, but I haven't really. But I know you talk about the one that's in jail, the actual serial killer one. Yes. He's a
thinker. He's a thinker. Now, the thing about him, there was that, and there was the other. Where was the other one? Oh my goodness! Gotta come back to it. See it. Come on, I had it. Oh my gosh,
I was just walking away. I was just taking my licks, man. I think someone threw me in the ring with Tyson or Clubber Lang, and just okay, I'm good, man. It's like, what happened? I got one rib left out of all the other ones. The other ones are cracked and mangled. At least I got one left.
Holy,
you're
killing me!
Wow.
No, but listen, there was that, and there was the was it Either March? Oh no, that was George. That was another one, that decent one too. Sorry, that's who it is. This guy. Think of who this guy is. This guy is. If I scroll down more, I'll get back to it. He's Lucen from the Underworld.
Yes.
Lucian.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
That was my pull. I know him because of my wife. But when I watched the show, I'm like, I know this guy. And then when I realized who he is, I'm like, oh, he's a bad man. He's a bad man. So when I had to go back and just confirm, yeah, that's Lucian. Yeah.
Wow.
So that combination right there, I can clearly see him just chilling on a beach. Just have him because he's older. Because you want to have fun. This is what we do.
This is wow. Okay. So Dave, I know he had to step out, but gave solid for animated and live action.
Yeah.
Rod, you just killed it live action, and you don't even know how well you hit it, because while I was doing my research for this, right, I wanted to see, curiosity wise, what Mark Millar would have picked for Nemesis.
Right.
And do you know who he picked? He sees playing Nemesis. Do you know which actor he was saying?
No.
Michael, the same one you guys call
really?
Yeah. He gave an interview, and that's what he was talking about when he sold his company over to Fox, then it got bought by Warner Brothers, and he's talking to himself and in an interview, and he said he'd like to have Michael Fassbender playing Nemesis. He called out the same actor you did.
Wow.
That's why I was like, when you called out the name, I'm like, wait a minute, did you read it? And you're like, no. I'm like, that's who he called out. So you both called out the same guy to play Nemesis. Wow. See, my choices went completely different. Wow. So that's solid, though. See, all we need is a redo on the script and a volume 2 or 3. And okay, so I'll make this short and sweet. So I had two choices for Nemesis. Okay. So hear me out. So my first choice was Jensen Ackles. So he's the guy who plays I believe it's Dean on Supernatural,
aka the Red Hood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's also going to be in season 3 of The Boys.
Yes.
Playing a version of Captain America.
Yes.
Right? And if you look on his Instagram page, if you go back about a year, maybe around Halloween time, he did a live action cosplay where he dressed up as Batman. I would have seen him playing Batman more than I would have seen, Robert Pattinson right now. But I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not making any judgment on that. But when Jensen dressed up as Batman, people were like shocked. It was on TMZ. Everyone was like, "Holy crap! He's got the physique. He's got the jawline. He's got the look. He's got the acting chops." He was just on Supernatural, which was a dark show. He kept it a little bit campy at times, but he can go further. He can go down the rabbit hole. Yeah. So that's who I had as Nemesis. My second choice for Nemesis, right? If it wasn't him, then I was going with, believe it or not, he's more of a comedian, Joel McHale. So Joel McHale is the main guy from Community, and he used to have this show called The Soup on the E channel, right? But you'll know him from, if you look him up and see, Community, Joe McHale. First of all, Joe, and he's also done a couple of episodes on Gabriel Iglesias' show there. It's on Netflix, where he's playing a school teacher. So he plays the ex-boyfriend of one of the teachers on there. So Joe he's tall. He's like easy over 6 foot something. He works out. So his physique is like on point. Like his arms are solid. He's got the physique. He does have the square jawline. I know he does a lot of comedy. Absolutely. But I think this, as him playing a villain and really cutting loose with it, he's got the physique. That was who I was going with. So it's either Joel or Jensen. Those are one of the two that I would like to see play Nemesis. This would bring them in, and a comedian can go pretty dark really quick. So, both of them have the I think would fit it. For the police officer, right? For Monroe, I was going with Jeffrey Dean Anderson.
Jeffrey.
So he's the one that plays Negan on The Walking Dead with the Bat Lucille.
Like, I'm hearing the name and I'm like, I know it. But
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because
yeah.
He you know, if you looked up, he's
yeah.
obviously Walking Dead. He's done the Watchmen. He was in that too. As a comedian.
Yep.
He was in another movie there, a DC movie, you know, which is called The Losers, which was based off their one of their comic books. You know, their version of the A-Team, as I like to say, right? And that had a good run. And that also had in Chris Evans in that movie also.
Yes.
Who, you know, and this was prior to him playing the Human Torch, and definitely before Chris Evans played Captain America.
Captain America. Yep.
So Jeffrey, you know, Jeffrey, you know, the one who plays Negan on Walking Dead would have been my Monroe, and either, you know, Joel or Jensen would have been Nemesis. And I would have liked to see them tangle it up on screen. Now, for the true Anderson who's sitting on the beach, I really never got around, but, you know, for who I would see. But you've called it such a great choice that I, as you put it, I can't get that out of my head now. I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. So that, my friends, is that.
Okay. No.
Sorry.
Let's not shove off what you have there. Like, say, Jensen is good. Negan as Morrow?
Yeah.
That again, he has the physique. He has the attitude to pull that off nicely, actually. So I can clearly see him too. I can see him pulling that off as well.
Huh.
And having those two battle it out, having Jensen and his Dean type of quirky, you know, comebacks. Although Nemesis never really had any type of comebacks too much.
No, but he's got that snarky attitude. He doesn't verbalize it, but that attitude is there. And especially you see that in the prison, right? Where he says, okay, lights out.
Lights back on. Okay, ready? Thanks for releasing me. Give me about a few minutes. I'll take the 97.
Yeah. It's like, it must be 100. 97 exactly. What? And he crumps it all up there. So that's our choices. That's the choice right there, man. But I like what you and Dave put out there. That was wow. Yeah. Whew. So on that note, once again, I'm your host, Barry 3D Carter. 3D stands for deep, dark, and delicious. Hey, I'm sitting here with my cousin,
DJ Rod C. Thank you again for a wonderful night or a wonderful time. You guys are watching this.
What? You know, I can definitely say, you know, thank you again from our brother, you know, David Sokolowski. I got that name. I'm going to keep saying it because I got it right, I think. If not, he's going to curse me out the next show. And, you know, you can always find Dave at A Ton of Fun Entertainment. And then you can also find him on Facebook, along with myself, at A Touch of Gray Matter. You know, that show drops, I said, like, you know, 3 episodes weekly on all different subjects, no holds barred, and it's us, you know, so it's myself, Dave. We have special guests on, along with, you know, Thomas Patrice and Zulf Ali. So the 4 of us make up the Touch of Gray, and that's what we go around doing our comedy tours when public opens again. And this is the Iconist podcast. So you remember, this whole world we talk about started with a pencil, a paper, and lots of imagination. Never stop dreaming. Like, subscribe, share, and if you can, donate to the channel. Help us grow. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening.